The stars were quiet. The Galactic Empire had ruled for thousands of years, and nothing had truly threatened its power. Planets paid tribute, fleets patrolled the void, and all other species bowed before the Emperor's throne. It was a galaxy of order, an order kept by fear. But one night, far at the edge of known space, something changed. It began as a whisper in the Imperial communication network. A strange signal, sharp and precise, cut through the silence. At first, technicians thought it was nothing more than background noise from the black, void, static interference, but then the signal, repeated, once, twice again, always the same. Perfect. Too perfect. Inside, a great station orbiting the Imperial capital. Scientists gathered. They checked their machines again and again. The data did not lie. Someone or something was sending a message from deep space. It was coming from beyond the mapped stars, from a place long forgotten. The High Council was called. Cloaked senators sat in a circle of cold light. Their voices trembled as they debated. This is nothing. A natural burst? No, another hissed. Look closer at the pattern. Look at the sequence. The room fell silent. The code was clear. It was language. Ancient but familiar. The old records were opened, files so dusty with time that many believed them only myths. There, written in forgotten history, was the truth. The signal matched the old human language. Humans. The word echoed in the council chamber like a curse. Long ago, humanity had been known as a minor species, small, fragile, weak. They had been mocked by the great empires, used, pushed aside, ignored. Many thought they had died out. Others believed they had fled into the dark, never to return. And yet here was their voice, sharp and undeniable, calling out from the edge of the galaxy. The Emperor himself was informed. Sitting upon his golden throne, surrounded by guards and servants, he listened to the replay of the signal. His cold eyes narrowed. Impossible, he whispered. They were finished. They were nothing. But the truth stood in the data. Humanity was not gone. Humanity was not dead. Humanity was coming back. Across the galaxy, rumors spread. Sailors spoke in taverns, traders whispered in markets, slaves in the mines prayed in silence. The word traveled faster than light. Humans. Out in the darkness, Imperial scouts were sent to investigate. Their ships raced toward the source of the signal. For days they reported nothing. Then, a week later, the first sighting reached the Empire. A fleet. Massive ships far larger than anything the Empire had ever built, drifting through the void. They moved slowly, like giants waking from a long sleep. Their black hulls swallowed light itself, glowing only with the red heat of power. And on each ship's side, one symbol burned. The mark of humanity. The scouts tried to hail them. No answer came, only silence. Then a single message broke through the comms. 2 words. Simple, cold, undeniable. We return. When that message was played before the High Council, even the oldest senators gasped. Fear ran through them like ice water. The Empire had faced rebellions before. It had crushed alien uprisings and destroyed entire star systems. But this was different. The humans were not crawling back weak. They were coming as something new, something powerful, something unstoppable. The Emperor ordered silence. He demanded the rumors be crushed, the truth hidden. But it was too late. The galaxy already knew. On distant worlds, alien slaves lifted their heads and smiled. Hope something forbidden stirred in their hearts. They whispered to each other in secret. The Juggernauts have come. Back on the Imperial capital, the Emperor stood before a great window, staring out at the endless stars. For the first time in his long rule, he felt the touch of fear. He remembered the history, how humans had once been mocked, how they had been treated as nothing. If they had survived, if they had grown in exile, then what were they now? And why had they returned? No one knew the answer. Not yet. But across the stars, in every corner of the Empire, the same thought repeated in the hearts of billions. If humanity had truly become a juggernaut, then the Empire itself might not survive. The stars, once calm and silent, now carried a whisper of doom, and the galaxy waited. Humanity returns. The signal had already shaken the Empire, but what came next froze it in fear. At the edge of the galaxy, Imperial scouts reported again. Their voices were low, heavy with terror. Yet we see them, ships, too many, too large, too advanced. The recordings played across the Emperor's private chamber. On the giant screen, grainy footage appeared. Against the black ocean of space, massive shapes moved. They were not Imperial designs. They were not any known alien race. These ships were different. Brutal, efficient, monstrous, they looked like floating fortresses. Entire cities hidden within armor. Each vessel radiated energy stronger than the Empire's greatest battleships, and they came in silence, without fear, without hurry. Humanity had returned. Long ago, the galaxy remembered humans had been weak, a minor species bound to one small blue planet. Their armies were small, their ships fragile, their voices drowned in the great councils of power. The Empire had mocked them. Other alien nations had used them. Some claimed that humans begged for protection. Others said they were enslaved. In the end, they had disappeared, driven out, broken, forgotten. But now they were back. And the weak prey of old had changed into something the galaxy did not recognize. In the Grand Council chamber, the senators argued, their voices filled with panic. "This cannot be real," one shouted. "The recordings are false." Another insisted. But the military commanders knew better. They studied the footage, calculated the numbers, measured the size of the vessels. Their conclusions were whispered, almost afraid to be spoken. One human ship carries more power than an entire Imperial fleet. The Emperor demanded silence. His voice thundered through the hall. "Do you think I fear a ghost species?" he growled. "They are nothing. We crushed them once and we can crush them again." But even he could not hide the tremor in his hands. The first human message reached the galaxy not through words but through presence. The great human fleet appeared near the planet Orivel, a minor mining colony on the Empire's edge. The colony governor watched from orbit as black ships emerged from the void one after another. Dozens. Hundreds. His comm officers screamed in panic. They sent desperate warnings to the Empire. "Prepare weapons."
"Shields up,"
the governor cried, but the humans did not fire. They did not invade. They simply stopped in orbit, their ships hanging above the planet like giant shadows. Then at last a transmission came through. The words were simple, cold, terrifying. "We are back. Do not resist." The governor fell to his knees. His officers stared at each other, unsure what to do. No shots were fired, yet the silence itself was heavier than war. The news traveled faster than light. Across the galaxy, every world heard it. Humans had returned. For common citizens, it was a story of horror and hope. The slaves of the Empire, beaten for generations, began to whisper, "Perhaps the humans will free us." The merchants whispered, "Perhaps they will open trade." The soldiers whispered, "Perhaps they will kill us all." For the Empire's rulers, it was something worse. It was the sound of a storm they could not stop. Inside the Imperial War Academy, young officers studied the humans with disbelief. Their teachers showed them ancient files, stories from the past. "These are the same people?" cadets muttered. "Yes," their commander answered. "But something has changed. They went into the dark as prey. They have returned as predators." The first true test came when the Empire sent a fleet to Orivel. Dozens of cruisers, fast and proud, shining with the Emperor's banner. The citizens believed they would crush the intruders as they had crushed so many before. But when the fleet arrived, the humans waited. For hours, there was silence. Two powers facing each other across the void. Then the Empire opened fire. Beams of plasma lit the darkness. Missiles streaked through space. The Empire's fleet roared in confidence. The human ships did not dodge. They did not break formation. Their black armor absorbed the blows. The weapons that could tear apart moons did nothing. Then the humans answered. A single volley. One strike. When the light cleared, the Empire's proud fleet was gone. Wreckage drifted silently among the stars. The humans had destroyed them in minutes. The galaxy gasped. In marketplaces, in palaces, in slave pens, the news spread like fire. The Empire's great fleet crushed. And the humans? They did not chase. They did not invade. They simply turned and continued deeper into the galaxy. This was worse than invasion. It was something no one could understand. If the humans wanted war, why not attack? If they wanted peace, why destroy so easily? No one knew. The only truth was this. The Juggernauts were moving forward step by step and nothing could stop them. And far above the Imperial capital, the Emperor stood alone at his window watching the stars. His voice was low, broken, almost fearful. They were weak once, he whispered. What have they become? First contact. First fear, the wreckage of the Empire's fleet still drifted near Oroville, cold and silent. Pieces of once proud ships floated like broken bones. No distress signals remained. No survivors, only the empty echo of defeat. For the first time in centuries, the Empire had lost a battle. And worse, it had lost it without understanding how. The council in panic in the heart of the capital. The Grand Council gathered again. Senators argued, their voices filled with fear. They did not even fight us as equals, one cried. They destroyed our fleet with one strike, another whispered. This is impossible. No species can hold such power. But the truth was undeniable. The humans were not only alive, they were beyond strong. Stronger than the Empire had ever imagined. The Emperor sat silently on his throne. His eyes burned with cold fury, but inside he felt something heavier. For the first time in his reign, he tasted fear. Send another fleet, he ordered at last. But this time I want prisoners. I want to see what these humans truly are. The second encounter weeks later, another Imperial force moved through the void. Smaller, faster, designed not to crush but to test. Their mission was clear. Make contact, capture if possible, learn what the humans wanted. At the edge of a red star system, they found them. The human fleet waited again. Silent shadows against the stars. Their formation was precise, like hunters circling prey. The Imperial commander, Admiral Sorel, opened the comms. His voice was steady, though his heart pounded. This is the Galactic Empire. You have entered restricted space. Identify yourselves or face destruction. For a long moment, there was only static. Then a voice answered. It was deep. Calm. Human. We are humanity. We have returned. We do not come as prey. We do not bow. We do not run. Leave us be. Or learn what we have become. The words spread across the Imperial fleet like fire. Ordinary soldiers shivered. Officers exchanged worried glances. The calmness of the voice was worse than threats. It was the voice of something absolutely certain of its power. Fear in the ranks. Admiral Sorel hesitated. His orders were clear, capture one if possible. But his instincts screamed at him. This was not prey. This was not some primitive race begging for mercy. Still, honor demanded action. He gave the order. Fire warning shots. Push them back, the fleet obeyed. A line of plasma beams lit the void, streaking past the human ships. They were not direct hits, only a show of power. But the humans did not move. Their ships stayed perfectly still, like giants laughing at insects. Then came the answer. One human ship activated its weapons. Only one, a single beam cut through the darkness. It did not aim at a battleship. It did not strike a cruiser. It cut through the flagship's engines with surgical precision, disabling it completely, but leaving the crew alive. Every other Imperial ship froze. The message was clear. We could have killed you all. We chose not to. The Galaxy Reacts news of the second encounter spread faster than the first. For common citizens, the story became legend. The humans spared them. Whispers filled the streets. They are powerful, but they are not conquerors. For the oppressed races under Imperial rule, hope began to grow. If the humans were merciful, perhaps they would be liberators. But for the Emperor, mercy was worse than destruction. Mercy meant control. Mercy meant dominance. Mercy meant the humans chose who lived and who died. That was a power greater than the Empire itself. The whisper of the Juggernaut in the darkest corners of the galaxy. Secret voices began to call humanity a new name. The Juggernauts. Not because of cruelty, not because of endless slaughter, but because of the simple, terrifying truth. Nothing could stop them. An old alien sage spoke in hushed tones. It is not their weapons that make them dangerous. It is their will. Once the galaxy laughed at humans. Now they return and they do not laugh at all. The Admiral's shame, Admiral Sorel, was brought back to the capital, his ship limping, his pride broken. Before the Emperor he knelt, his head bowed. They could have destroyed us all, he confessed. They held back. They spared us. The Emperor's voice was sharp, cold. You speak of mercy as if it is strength. No, mercy is arrogance. And arrogance will be punished. But even as he spoke, his hands trembled. Deep in his heart, he knew the truth. Mercy was not arrogance. It was confidence, and the humans had shown it with ease. Fear grows across the galaxy. Fear spread like wildfire. Some feared invasion. Some feared rebellion. Others feared something even greater. the unknown purpose of humanity's return. Why had they come back now? What did they want? Why did they destroy then spare? No one had the answer. All that was certain was this: the humans were here. They were stronger than ever, and the Empire had no idea how to stop them. The galaxy waited in silence. The storm had only begun. The Empire's desperation. The silence after the second encounter was worse than the battles themselves. The Empire had always thrived on dominance. Fear was its weapon, and obedience was its shield. But now, for the first time in living memory, fear had turned inward. The galaxy did not fear the Empire. The galaxy feared humanity. The Emperor's fury. In his golden throne room, the Emperor's rage shook the walls. He listened again to Admiral Sorel's report. How one human ship had disabled the flagship with a single strike, sparing thousands of lives. To be spared is worse than to be destroyed. The Emperor spat. They humiliate us. They mock us. They must be crushed. But in the shadows, even his advisors doubted. They had seen the data. They knew the truth. Crushing the humans was no longer a plan. It was a dream fading into dust. Propaganda of fear still. The Emperor knew one truth. Control began with belief. If the citizens lost faith in the Empire, rebellion would follow. So the propaganda machines roared to life. Across every planet, every screen lit with imperial words. Humans are monsters, the messages declared. They bring chaos, not order. They are not saviors, they are destroyers. Only the Empire can protect you from them. Images of twisted human faces filled the broadcasts, exaggerated into beasts. Stories of human cruelty were whispered into schools, repeated in temples, shouted in markets. But whispers are hard to control. While the Empire's voice thundered in public, a quieter voice grew in secret. They are not monsters. They are hope. The Council of Desperation, the High Council, gathered in secret chambers. Senators and generals argued like desperate animals. We cannot face them alone, one senator cried. Then we must call the other races. Another shouted. Are you mad? A general hissed. The other races despise us. They bend to our rule only because they fear us. If they see us weak, they will turn against us. But weakness was already exposed. Humanity had pulled the mask away. One voice, trembling but brave, broke the silence. If we do not act, the humans will not need to destroy us. The galaxy itself will rise against us. The Emperor listened, his face a mask of stone. At last he nodded. Then gather them, all of them. If the galaxy wants survival, it must kneel beside us. Together we will drown the humans in numbers. It was a desperate plan. A plan born not of strength but of fear. Strange allies. And so the Empire reached out to old enemies. Races once conquered, once enslaved, once broken. They were called not as partners but as tools. Some refused. Some laughed at the invitation. But others, afraid of the Juggernauts, agreed. Fleet after fleet was promised. Armies were pledged. The largest war council in galactic history began to form. Yet even as this alliance grew, everyone knew the truth. Numbers did not guarantee victory. Against humanity, numbers might mean nothing at all. The question of intent. While the Empire plotted war, the galaxy still asked the same question. What do the humans want? They did not conquer Oroville. They did not enslave its people. After destroying the Imperial fleet, they had left without claiming the planet. If they wished to rule, why not seize territory? If they wished for peace, why destroy it all? The mystery of their purpose was more terrifying than their weapons. A conqueror could be resisted. A liberator could be bargained with. But something beyond reason? That was unstoppable. The Emperor's night one night, alone in his palace, the Emperor stood at his window again. He stared at the endless stars. They mock me, he whispered. They think themselves gods. But they are only men. Men who must bleed like all others. He clenched his fist, but deep inside, doubt gnawed at him. For centuries, the Empire had been unchallenged. For centuries, its fleets had ruled the stars. But in only 2 encounters, humanity had shaken the foundation of his throne. What if they could not be stopped? The thought clawed at his mind, refusing to leave. Whispers of rebellion. Meanwhile, across the galaxy, the oppressed races stirred. Secret gatherings lit by dim lamps filled with quiet voices. The humans destroyed the Imperial fleet in minutes. They spared prisoners. They spared lives. They are strong, but not cruel. Perhaps they are different. Hope was a dangerous thing. The Empire had long crushed it with fire and blood. But now hope returned. carried by the whisper of human power. And for the first time in generations, rebellion did not seem impossible. The desperate gamble. The Emperor announced his decision at last. His voice thundered through the galaxy. The Empire does not fear shadows. We will not bend to ghost. The humans will face our full strength. We call upon all loyal races. Together we will burn them from the stars. His words were strong, but his eyes betrayed the truth. It was not confidence that guided him now. It was desperation. The galaxy prepared for war. Armies marched. Fleets were built. Old enemies gathered under one banner, not for loyalty but for survival. And far away in the silent dark, humanity watched. Their ships moved slowly, steadily deeper into Imperial space. They spoke no threats, gave no demands, they simply came. The Empire called it a defense. The galaxy called it a war. But in the silence of space, a different truth echoed. This was not the humans testing the Empire. This was the humans returning to finish what had once been started. The Juggernaut revealed. The fleets of the Empire gathered. Dozens of species forced into alliance. Hundreds of thousands of ships spread across the void. It was the largest armada in recorded history, a storm of metal and fire. Yet despite its size, despite the banners, despite the roar of propaganda, a quiet unease haunted the commanders. They remembered the wreckage of Orville. They remembered the mercy at the Red Star, and they remembered how easily humans had chosen to destroy or to spare. The Empire told them this was strength, but in the silence of their own hearts they feared it was weakness exposed. The broadcast. The humans had been silent since their return. No speeches, no demands, only the cold weight of their presence. But then, on a night that stretched across every star, their voice returned. Every channel, every frequency, every comm system in the galaxy went dark for a moment. Then a single transmission echoed in every language. A human face appeared. Not cruel, not monstrous, but calm. The eyes were old, carrying the weight of centuries. "We are humanity," the voice said. "Long ago we were weak. Long ago we were betrayed. You forced us into the void. You laughed as we vanished. But exile did not end us. Exile made us strong." The galaxy froze. Merchants stopped mid-bargain. Soldiers stood still. Slaves in the mines raised their heads. Everyone listened. "We are not here for conquest. We are not here for slaves. We are here for justice. Those who raise chains on our world will face us. Those who betrayed Earth will answer. We do not come as prey. We come as juggernauts." And then the broadcast ended, leaving silence heavier than war. The forgotten betrayal. Old historians rushed to the archives. For centuries, the Empire had buried the story of Earth, hidden it under layers of lies. But now the truth could not be denied. Long ago, when humanity was still young, the Empire had approached them. Promises of trade, promises of peace. But when Earth refused to bend, the Empire had unleashed war. Human cities had burned. Human fleets were torn apart. At last, humanity had fled, scattering into the dark with nothing but broken ships and broken hope. The records ended there. Many believed humanity had perished, but they had not died. They had endured. The Juggernaut forged in exile, far beyond the edge of known space. Humanity had rebuilt. They had united in a way no species had before. No empire, no council, no caste, only survival. Every disaster had forged them harder. Every failure had sharpened them. Every century had made them stronger. They built ships larger than cities, weapons that could silence suns, armor that could withstand entire bombardments. Their science advanced without limits, their unity unbroken. Where other species fractured under pressure, humanity became steel. They had been prey once, but prey no longer. The Empire trembles. The Emperor heard the broadcast from his throne. His face remained calm, but his nails dug into his golden armrests. "Justice," he spat. "They dare speak of justice." But deep in his heart he remembered. He remembered the war. He remembered Earth. He remembered the choice that had seemed so small: crush the weak humans and move on. Now that choice had returned, larger than the Empire itself. Rebellion stirs across the galaxy. The effect of the broadcast was electric. On mining worlds, slaves whispered, they fight not for conquest, but for justice. On border colonies, citizens muttered, if they want revenge, perhaps the Empire deserves it. Even in the fleets, young soldiers questioned, Why should we die to defend the sins of the past? The Empire tried to smother these whispers with propaganda, but propaganda is weak against memory. The truth had been spoken, and truth spreads faster than lies. The mask of mercy. But the most terrifying part of the broadcast was not the threat. It was the restraint. The humans did not say they would burn every world. They did not say they would rule. They said only this: justice. That single word was worse than conquest, because it meant choice. It meant they would decide who lived, who died, who was guilty, who was spared. The Juggernaut was not only a fleet, it was judgment itself, the quiet before the storm. The allied armada of the Empire prepared for war. Thousands of ships moved into position, forming walls of steel across the stars. But as they prepared, they knew the truth. No matter how many fleets they gathered, no matter how loud their emperor shouted, the balance had shifted. The humans had revealed themselves not as a lost race, not as ghosts, not as prey, but as juggernauts, born of betrayal, sharpened by exile, returned for justice. And the galaxy trembled, waiting for the storm. The final stand. The stars burned with war. The Empire had gathered its greatest armada. An ocean of steel spread across the void. Every ship that could fly was pressed into service: dreadnoughts, cruisers, carriers, swarms of fighters. Alien allies, sworn by fear or desperation, joined the ranks. It was a fleet so vast that even the stars seemed dimmed by its presence. The Emperor called it invincible. The propaganda named it eternal. But in the silence between the engines, soldiers whispered a darker truth. This is not a fleet for victory. This is a fleet for survival. The waiting giants. Then the humans came. They did not arrive with fanfare. No threats, no speeches. Just shadows in the dark, their black ships sliding out of the void like silent predators. At first there were only a few, then dozens, then hundreds. Each vessel dwarfed the Empire's largest dreadnoughts. Their hulls absorbed light. Their weapons glowed with restrained fire. They moved not as individuals, but as one vast, unbroken wall. And still, the humans remained silent. For hours, the two armadas faced one another, a galaxy holding its breath. The first strike, it was the Empire that fired first. Plasma cannons roared. Missiles streaked across the void. Beams of light carved through space itself. The Allied fleet unleashed everything, a storm that could have shattered moons. The human fleet endured. Their shields burned bright. Their armor held. Their formation never broke. The storm crashed against them and died. Then slowly the juggernauts answered. One volley. One wave of fire. Imperial cruisers shattered. Carriers split in half. Fighters vanished like sparks in the wind. Entire battle groups were erased in moments, their screams lost to the void. Desperation and chaos. The Empire's commanders shouted orders. Push forward. Overwhelmed them with numbers. But numbers meant nothing. Every time an Imperial ship charged, a human weapon cut it down. Every time a squadron surrounded a juggernaut, it was destroyed in a single flash. The battlefield became chaos. Ships collided in panic. Fleets broke formation. Allies turned and fled, their courage broken. The humans advanced with terrible patience. Step by step, volley by volley, they carved through the largest fleet the galaxy had ever seen. The Emperor's pride on, the Imperial command ship, the Emperor watched in silence. Around him, officers shouted, begged for retreat, pleaded for mercy, but he stood tall, his eyes locked on the human fleet. They mock us, he whispered. They think themselves gods.
No, I will not bow.
I will not flee. He gave the order. All ships focus fire on their flagship. Break them there or die here. The armada obeyed. Thousands of weapons turned toward a single juggernaut ship at the center of the formation. The void lit with fire, and when the light faded, the human flagship still stood, scarred, but unbroken. Then it struck back. A single beam cut through the Emperor's proudest battleship, tearing it apart as if it were paper. The Emperor's own fleet was torn to pieces around him, his glory reduced to wreckage. The death of an armada hours passed, though it felt like minutes. The Allied armada that had stretched across the stars was gone. Millions of lives ended, billions more scattered in wreckage. The humans stood victorious. Their fleet remained, dented, scarred, but still terrifying. The Empire's invincible force had been erased. The galaxy's greatest gamble had failed, and yet humanity did not chase the survivors. They did not slaughter the fleeing ships. They let them run. The mercy was worse than the destruction. The galaxy watches from distant worlds, from hidden colonies, from slave camps and markets. The galaxy watched in awe and terror. The news spread like wildfire. The Empire had gathered its might, and the humans had broken it like glass. For the oppressed, it was hope. For the rulers, it was doom. For the Emperor, it was humiliation deeper than death. The Juggernaut's shadow as the human fleet advanced deeper into Imperial space. They sent no demands, no ultimatums, only silence. And that silence spoke louder than words. It told the galaxy, we cannot be stopped. We do not need to shout. We do not need to conquer. We simply are. The Juggernaut had revealed its true face, not just a fleet, not just an army, but a will of iron forged by centuries of exile and betrayal. And now, nothing stood between humanity and the Imperial capital itself. The Emperor's last thought on his shattered flagship. Drifting in ruins, the Emperor stood before the wreckage of his throne. His soldiers lay dead. His fleet was gone. He stared into the endless stars, and for the first time he spoke the truth aloud. We thought them weak. We thought them nothing. But they are not prey. They are the storm. They are the Juggernaut. And his words faded into silence, carried away by the void, the horror and the future. The battlefield was silent. Where once the Empire's armada had burned with fire and power, now only wreckage drifted. Countless ships, imperial, allied, mercenary, floated broken and lifeless. The void that had echoed with war was now filled with a heavier sound, silence. And in that silence the Juggernaut stood. The human fleet did not celebrate. They did not boast. They did not even move quickly. They waited, dark shadows against the stars, their weapons still glowing, their formation still unbroken. To the survivors, it was not victory they saw. It was judgment. The galaxy trembles. The battle's end was carried across the stars in whispers and screams. On the mining world, slaves looked up at the sky and dared to hope. On merchant stations, traders packed their goods and fled, fearing a new ruler. On noble palaces, rulers hid behind their walls, praying the humans would pass them by. Everywhere, the same thought was spoken. The Empire has fallen. The humans have returned. What will they do now? The Emperor's ashes on the capital, chaos spread. The Emperor had vanished, his flagship lost in the wreckage. Without him, the Empire had no voice, no command, no mask of strength to hide its fear. Governors argued. Senators fled. Generals blamed each other. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Empire stood leaderless, and the people, those who had been crushed beneath its rule, rose in whispers. Small rebellions ignited. Chains were broken. The fire of freedom, once tiny, now spread in every corner. The human choice, but the humans did not immediately strike the capital. They did not demand surrender. Instead, they sent a message, not to the rulers, but to the galaxy itself. Every comm channel lit with their voice once more. We are not here to rule. We are not here to enslave. We are here to end the chains of betrayal. The Empire betrayed us. The Empire betrayed countless others. That era ends tonight. The message was short, but its meaning was thunder. The Juggernauts had revealed their purpose. They did not seek crowns. They sought to tear them down. Horror and mercy, but even as hope grew, so did terror. For the humans spared many. They let fleeing ships escape. They ignored planets that surrendered. They showed restraint that only revealed their terrible power, because mercy was not kindness. Mercy was choice. The galaxy realized the truth. Humans chose who lived and who died. And that choice was absolute. To some, this was salvation. To others, it was horror. What ruler could live under the shadow of such power? What tyrant could sleep, knowing the Juggernaut might one day return for them? Voices of the freed on distant worlds, newly freed slaves raised their hands and cried in joy. The humans have given us freedom, they shouted. They are not conquerors, they are liberators. But in the halls of power, whispers turned darker. If they can end the Empire in a single battle, what stops them from ending us tomorrow? What happens when their idea of justice no longer matches ours? The galaxy was split between hope and fear, the future unwritten. The human fleet advanced at last, but not in conquest. They entered imperial systems not to enslave but to dismantle the weapons of tyranny. They tore down prisons. They freed colonies. They destroyed shipyards built on suffering. Everywhere they went, the old order fell. And yet humanity did not build a new throne. They left no governors, no rulers, only silence in their wake. The galaxy now faced a terrifying question. If the Empire was gone, who would rise in its place? And would humanity allow it? The final whisper as the humans approached the capital the last broadcast came. We were weak once. The galaxy laughed at us. It chained us. It betrayed us. But no chains last forever. We are humanity. We do not bow. We do not run. We do not forgive betrayal. The Juggernaut moves forward, and nothing will stand in our way. The voice ended and the stars were silent again. The ending without end on every world, eyes turned upward. To some, the humans were heroes. To others, monsters. But to all, they were inevitability. The Empire had mocked them. Now it lay in ruins. The galaxy had ignored them. Now it knelt in fear. Humanity had been prey. Now it was predator. Humanity had been exiled. Now it was judge. And as the human fleet's shadow spread across the stars, one truth became certain. The story was not over. It had only begun.